A millionaire paid $1 million for a night with a poor maid, until her secret changed everything. Hello everyone. Before we begin today's video, I need your help. We've noticed that the channel is losing traction, and subscribing is one of the best ways you can help us. It's quick, free, and allows us to continue bringing you great content. Your support means everything. Let's keep this channel growing collectively. Where are you watching from? Drop your city or country in the comments below. Thank you very much. Let's return to our main character. The ballroom at the Grand Regency Hotel shimmered under 100 crystal chandeliers. Guests in tuxedos raised their champagne flutes, waiting for the millionaire's next move. And then he said it. I'll pay $1 million for one night. With her. His finger pointed toward the corner of the room. Everyone followed his gaze. A hush fell. Not on the heiresses in designer gowns. Not on the celebrities, but on a young maid in a plain gray uniform, holding a silver tray with trembling hands. Her name was Elena Cruz, 24 years old. Poor, invisible, a maid the hotel barely paid enough to survive. Gasps. Whispers rushed like wildfire. Did he just... with the maid? Is this a joke? Elena froze, the tray wobbling in her grip. One glass slid. She caught it just in time. Her heartbeat louder than the orchestra in the background. The millionaire Dominic Blackwell didn't flinch. Perfect posture. Tailored suit, worth more than her family's house. His eyes, sharp as glass, stayed locked on her. Elena whispered, almost to herself. This can't be real. But it was. Dominic had built empires on contracts and cold calculations. He never smiled. Never begged. But tonight, he didn't ask, he declared. $1 million. One night, with a maid who earned barely $300 a week. Elena's breath caught. Her palms sweated against the silver tray. She wanted to run. Yet, $1 million could erase every debt her family owed. Could pay for her brother's surgery. Could buy time she never thought she'd have. But the shame burned her cheeks. 100 eyes pierced her like knives. Mr. Blackwell, one board member stammered, trying to laugh it off. Surely you're joking. Dominic turned slowly. His voice was ice. Do I look like I joke? Silence. Not a single laugh dared follow. Elena's knees weakened. She clutched the tray, fighting the urge to cry. A waiter brushed past her, muttering under his breath. Poor thing. Run while you can. Her lips pressed tight. She had run all her life. From hunger, from debt collectors, from broken promises. But tonight, where would she run? Dominic's gaze never wavered. Like he was studying her, dissecting her. Not as a woman. Not as a maid. But as a mystery. Answer me, he said, voice carrying through the hall. 1 million. Tonight. Yes or no? The orchestra had stopped playing. Even the champagne bubbles seemed to pause mid-glass. Elena's throat tightened. Every part of her screamed no. But in the back of her mind, her brother's face, pale in a hospital bed. She whispered, almost inaudible. Why, me? Dominic's lips curved, not a smile. Something darker. Because you're the only one in this room who hasn't tried to sell me something. The room erupted in murmurs again. Her hands shook harder. Her tray tilted. A crystal flute crashed to the floor. The sound shattered the silence like a gunshot. Dozens of eyes darted back to her. Some disgusted, some amused. Dominic didn't move, but his words cut through the noise. Pick it up, he said calmly. Then give me your answer. Elena bent down, her knees brushing the marble. Her fingers grazed the broken glass. She saw her reflection in the shards, small, tired, unworthy. And yet, deep in her chest, something stirred. A spark. She straightened slowly, pieces of glass trembling in her hands. For the first time, she looked straight into Dominic's eyes. You think money buys everything, she said softly. But the words carried farther than she meant. But maybe, not me. A ripple of shock spread through the crowd. Dominic tilted his head, studying her. For a fraction of a second, something flickered in his eyes. Amusement? Admiration? Or maybe danger? The hall held its breath. And then he stepped forward. Closer. Too close. Elena Cruz, he murmured. You've just made this night interesting. And that's when the lights flickered. The doors swung open. Reporters flooded in, cameras flashing. Mr. Blackwell, is it true? $1 million for a maid? Elena, do you accept? Is this a scandal or a contract? The room exploded. Elena's heart thundered. She had no way out. But what she said next would change everything. Flashbulbs blinded her. Microphones shoved forward. Questions flew like arrows. Elena, did you accept the million? Dominic, is this a publicity stunt? Is she your secret lover? Elena's throat closed. Her hands trembled around the broken glass she still held. For a moment, she thought she'd faint. But Dominic moved. He stepped between her and the crowd, one hand raised. Enough. His voice sliced through the chaos. The reporters froze. Dominic took the shards from her hands, dropped them onto a waiter's tray. His other hand lingered on hers. The gesture wasn't tender. It was possession. And everyone saw it. Gasps. More flashes. Elena Cruz, Dominic said, loud enough for the entire ballroom. Will you be my guest tonight? It wasn't a question. It was a command, wrapped in velvet. Her lips parted, but no words came. Herr Chestrus fell. In that silence, Dominic slipped his arm around her waist. Firm. Inevitable. The crowd erupted. She agreed. No way, she's just a maid. This is insane. Minutes later, Elena found herself in the back of a black limousine. The city lights streaked past, neon and gold. Her heart still pounded in her throat. Dominic sat across from her. Perfect posture. Expression unreadable. She gripped her skirt tightly. You humiliated me, she whispered. You threw me in front of them like an object. His gaze didn't waver. You picked up the glass, and you spoke back. That's why I chose you. Her stomach twisted. That's not a compliment. Oh, for the first time that night, his lips curved. Not a smile. Something sharper. No, he murmured. It's a warning. The car stopped at his penthouse tower. Marble floors, guarded lobby. A world Elena had only seen in magazines. She hesitated on the sidewalk. $1 million echoed in her ears. Could she really do this? Her brother's hospital bills. Her mother's medicine. The rent overdue. She forced her feet to move. Inside the elevator, silence pressed in. Dominic leaned against the glass wall, watching her reflection instead of her face. Finally, he spoke. You want the money. I want control. She flinched. At least you're honest. You'll learn, he said softly. In my world, honesty is the most dangerous currency. The penthouse opened like another universe. Floor-to-ceiling windows. A skyline glittering like diamonds. Champagne already chilled on the counter. Dominic loosened his tie. Tossed his jacket onto the sofa. Elena stood by the door, frozen. This was no place for her. She still smelled of hotel, bleach, and floor polish. He noticed. You're stiff. Sight down. Hair knees locked. I'm not one of your women. That earned her a laugh. Low. Surprising. You think I bring women here? Her eyes flicked around. The penthouse was spotless. No perfume bottles. No stray earrings. Just power. And silence. He poured 2 glasses of champagne. Held one out. She shook her head. I can't. I don't drink. He studied her. Not even for $1 million? Her lips tightened. She reached for water instead. For the first time, something flickered in his gaze. Respect. Or irritation. She couldn't tell. Midnight. The city roared below, alive with horns and laughter. Inside, only 2 voices. He leaned closer. You haven't asked why I offered. Her breath caught. Because you could. Because money means nothing to you. His eyes darkened. Wrong. It means everything. But tonight, I wanted something money can't usually buy. She frowned. And what's that? He paused. You. Her chest tightened. It wasn't desire in his tone. It was challenge. A silence stretched. Elena's thoughts spiraled her brother's face, her mother's medicine, her own dignity dangling on a fragile thread. Finally, she whispered, if I agree, there will be rules. His brow arched. You're negotiating? Yes, she said firmly. I'll accept the night. I'll accept the $1 million. But not your humiliation, not your cruelty. Dominic's jaw tightened. He leaned back slowly, studying her like a chess piece. Then, a smile. Thin. Dangerous. Very well, Miss Cruz. Tonight, you just became the most expensive contract of my life. But as his words lingered, Elena felt something shift inside her. Because the secret she carried was worth far more than his money. And when he discovered it, everything would change. The clock struck 1. Outside, The city glittered like broken glass. Inside, silence stretched across the penthouse. Dominic poured himself another drink. Elena sat stiff on the couch, hands clasped so tight her knuckles whitened. She hated the silence. It wasn't empty, it was full of questions she couldn't answer. Finally, he broke it. Why rules? Her eyes lifted. Because money doesn't arouse dignity. He tilted his glass, studying the amber swirl. You speak like you've been poor your whole life. I have. Her voice cracked. But poverty doesn't mean obedience. For a long moment he didn't reply. Then, he smiled faintly. You're the first woman to tell me no. Her pulse jumped. Not from pride. From fear. Dominic stood, walking to the vast window. The skyline stretched behind him like a crown. You know what 1 million means to most people? He asked quietly. Elena's chest tightened. It means hope. He turned, eyes cold. To me, it means leverage. Her breath hitched. This wasn't about desire. It was about control. And she refused to give him all of it. So she rose. Stepped closer. Her voice steady despite the tremor inside. Then maybe you overpaid. His jaw clenched. For a second, he looked ready to snap. But instead, he laughed. Low. Surprised. You're dangerous, Elena Cruz. Her throat tightened. Number just tired of being stepped on. The hours bled on. She thought the night would be unbearable. But something shifted. Dominic didn't touch her. Didn't cross the line. Instead, he asked questions. Where she was from. Why she worked at the hotel. What she wanted in life. At first, she answered cautiously. Then the walls cracked. She told him about her brother Mateo. 12 years old. Hooked up to machines in a public hospital. Waiting for surgery their family could never afford. Dominic listened without interruption. No motskeri. No judgment. When she finished, he set his glass down. Is that why you didn't run tonight? Her eyes stung. Yes. Silence again. But different. Heavy with something unspoken. Finally, he whispered. You remind me of someone I used to know. Her brow furrowed. Who? He didn't answer. Just turned away, shoulders tense. For the first time, Dominic Blackwell looked less like a god in a penthouse, and more like a man haunted by ghosts. Near dawn, Elena rose from the couch. I should go, she murmured. Dominic blocked the door with one hand on the frame. You walk out now, you break the contract. Herr Stomachzang. You said one night. His eyes locked on hers. One night isn't over yet. Her chest heaved. She felt trapped again. But before she could speak, his phone buzzed. He glanced at the screen. His expression darkened. Stay here, he ordered, stepping aside. The tone left no room for argument. He answered the call, voice sharp. What do you mean the deal collapsed? No, stall them until I get there. Elena froze. She wasn't supposed to hear. But every word carried across the marble floor. A deal. Millions at stake. His empire. Cracking. Dominic turned, realizing she had heard. For the first time, his mask slipped. Vulnerability flickered. Elena swallowed. You're losing something important. He stiffened. This is not your concern. But she stepped forward, her voice firm, even through fear. Maybe it is. His eyes narrowed. You're a maid. What could you possibly know? Her pulse raced. She could stay silent, pretend ignorance, or reveal the secret she'd carried all along. Elena Cruz, the maid who scrubbed floors, had once studied business law for 3 years. She wasn't just poor. She was unfinished, hidden, overlooked. Her gaze didn't falter. Let me see the contract. Dominic froze. Half disbelief. Half curiosity. You have 5 seconds to explain why I should. Ah. Her voice didn't shake. Because your million bought my time tonight, not my silence. And I might just save your empire. For the first time all night, Dominic Blackwell didn't have an answer. He stared at her like he was seeing her for the first time. And then, slowly, he handed her the phone. Prove it. Elena's hands trembled as she took it. But her eyes burned with quiet fire. The maid was gone. The woman remained. And what she said next would change everything. Elena held the phone with both hands. Her palms were damp, but her eyes steady. On the screen glowed the contract. Dense words, tight clothes, legal traps. Dominic watched her like a hawk, certain she'd fold under the weight of it. But she didn't. Her fingers scrolled with surprising ease. Her lips moved as she read silently. Finally she exhaled. This clause, it's backwards. Dominic's brows shot up. What? She pointed to a section highlighted in red. It says termination is absolute, but the condition contradicts the safeguard on page 14. That opens it to interpretation. If your lawyers argue ambiguity, the contract can't be enforced. Silence. The city's hum seemed to fade. You read contracts? Dominic muttered. Her voice was quiet, but firm. I studied business law for 3 years, until tuition ran out. I never finished, but I never stopped reading. Dominic took a step closer. The sharpness in his eyes softened just a fraction. You're telling me 11 attorneys missed this? Elena met his stare. Arrogance makes people blind, especially the rich. For a moment, he almost smiled. Almost. Then his jaw tightened. You're bold, Maid. Her chin lifted. Bold doesn't mean wrong. The phone buzzed again. His partner's name flashed on the screen. The deal waited. Dominic hesitated, eyes locked on Elena. Then, he pressed speaker. Talk, he commanded. On the other end, voices panicked. We're about to lose the entire contract. The other side won't budge. Elena's pulse thundered. She stepped closer, her voice steady despite the tremor inside. Tell them the ambiguity violates enforceability. Reference the Harmon v. Ellis ruling, 2018. The line went dead silent. Dominique's executives stammered. Who the hell was that? Dominic's lips curved. The maid. For seconds that stretched like eternity, nothing. Then, we'll call you back. Click. Dominic turned the phone off, staring at Elena. You just spoke like a lawyer. She folded her arms. I told you, poverty doesn't erase knowledge. The room thickened with tension. He took a step closer. Too close. You intrigue me, Elena Cruz. Her chest tightened. I'm not here to intrigue you. I'm here because you waved money in my face. He tilted his head, studying her like a puzzle. And yet, you just saved me millions. Her lips pressed into a line. I didn't do it for you. I did it because injustice makes me sick. Something flickered in his eyes. Something he quickly smothered. Moments later, his phone rang again. This time, triumph in his partner's voice. They folded. Elena was right. The deal stands. We're saved. Dominic didn't answer. He just stared at the maid who wasn't supposed to matter. The woman who just outsmarted his entire legal team. Elena stepped back, trying to calm her shaking hands. Now you got your victory, and I got my answer. What answer? That you're not untouchable. She moved toward the door, but his voice stopped her. Elena. She froze. Her name rolled off his tongue like a command. He walked closer, lowering his voice. You think you can just leave after this? Her heart hammered. You promised. One night, that was the deal. Dominic's gaze darkened. The deal changed the moment you became useful. Her stomach dropped. She spun to face him. I'm not your employee. I'm not your toy. He leaned closer, eyes burning. Number, you're something else entirely. Her breath caught. The room seemed to close in. For a moment, she thought he might kiss her. But instead he pulled away. Cold again. Controlled. You'll stay, until I decide otherwise. Elena's hands curled into fists. The $1 million no longer mattered. It wasn't about money anymore. It was about power. And for the first time in her life, she wasn't afraid to fight. Her voice cut the silence. You think you own me, Dominic Blackwell, but you don't. He froze. Her defiance echoed through the glass and marble palace. For a heartbeat, neither moved. Then the intercom buzzed. The building concierge's voice filled the room. Mr. Blackwell, the press is downstairs. They know about the maid. Elena's blood ran cold. Dominic's jaw clenched. The secret was out, and the war had just begun. The intercom crackled. Mr. Blackwell, reporters are swarming the lobby. They're demanding answers. Elena's breath hitched. Her secret was no longer safe. Dominic's jaw flexed. Tell security to hold them back. Yes, sir, but they're not leaving. The line cut. Elena turned to him, panic flashing in her eyes. They know about me. Dominic adjusted his cufflinks, calm as stone. They know what I allow them to know. She shook her head. They'll twist it. They'll drag me through the mud. You don't understand, people like me don't survive scandals. His gaze narrowed. You underestimate yourself. Her chest burned. Number, I understand too well. Down below, sirens wailed faintly. Camera lights flickered against the tower glass. The city was awake, hungry for a story. Dominic picked up his phone. Board members were already calling. Headlines flashed across the screen. Millionaire CEO offers $1 million for a Maid's company. Blackwell's scandal rocks Wall Street. He shut it off. Turned to her. They'll attack you first, not me. Her throat tightened. Because I'm weaker. Because you're unexpected. Minutes later, the elevator dinged. His personal assistant, pale and sweating, rushed in. Dominic, the investors are furious. They want reassurance now. And the media, they're camped outside. They're calling Elena a gold digger. Elena's face flushed with shame. She stepped back, hugging herself. Dominic's voice was low. Leave us. The assistant obeyed, vanishing as quickly as he came. Elena whispered, almost to herself. I shouldn't have stayed. I should have walked out last night. Dominic approached, his presence heavy. You would have gone home broke, with no way to save your brother. Tears stung her eyes. You think reminding me makes this better? His tone sharpened. Number, it makes it real. Silence stretched between them. The noise from outside grew louder. Protesters? Reporters? She couldn't tell anymore. Finally, Dominic sighed. Come with me. Where? He grabbed his jacket. Downstairs, face them. Her chest squeezed. Number, absolutely not. You want dignity? He pressed. Then don't hide. Don't let them write your story for you. Her breath caught. He was right. But her knees trembled at the thought. Minutes later, the lobby doors swung open. The flash of cameras was blinding. Microphones shoved forward like weapons. Elena? Did you sell yourself for $1 million? Dominic? Is she your mistress? Is this exploitation or romance? Elena froze, every muscle screaming to run. But Dominic's hand pressed lightly against her back. Not forceful. Just steady. She straightened. Her voice shook, but it carried. My name is Elena Cruz. I clean floors for a living. I didn't ask for this, but don't call me a gold digger. I know my worth and it's not for sale. The crowd gasped. Shutters clicked faster. Dominic's eyes flicked sideways at her. For the first time, pride shimmered in his gaze. But before the moment could settle, a familiar voice cut through the chaos. Dominic! A woman pushed forward, elegant in designer silk. Meredith Kensington, Dominique's former fiancée. The cameras went wild. Reporters shouted louder. Meredith, what do you think of the Maid? Is Dominic humiliating your family name? Meredith's smile was sharp as glass. She looked Elena up and down. A maid in the penthouse? How creative. The crowd laughed nervously. Elena's cheeks burned. Dominic's jaw tensed. Meredith, don't. But she stepped closer, her perfume sharp in the air. Don't what? Point out the obvious? She doesn't belong here, and everyone knows it. The words sliced deeper than Elena expected. Her chest tightened. She wanted to disappear. But then her brother's face flashed in her mind, and her mother's tired hands, and the contract she had just saved hours ago. She lifted her chin. Her voice was low, but it cut through the noise. You're right. I don't belong here. Meredith smirked. At least she admits it. Elena's eyes burned, but her tone sharpened. Not yet, but I will. The lobby fell silent. Even the cameras stilled. Dominic's gaze snapped to her. For the first time, he looked shaken. This maid wasn't backing down. Meredith's smile faltered. Her perfect poise cracked. The crowd erupted again. Not mocking this time. Curious. Hungry. And Dominic realized Elena Cruz had just flipped the story. By the time Dominic's security pulled them back inside, the lobby was chaos. Reporters shouting, cameras flashing, Meredith smirking like a queen who had just planted a bomb. The elevator doors closed. Silence. Elena's chest heaved. Her hands shook from the adrenaline. Dominic's jaw was locked, his eyes fixed straight ahead. Not a word, not a glance. When the doors opened to the penthouse, Elena finally broke the silence. You knew she'd be there. His head turned slowly. I didn't invite her. But you knew, she pressed. That world you all play the same games. For a moment, his expression flickered. Almost guilt. Then the mask returned. Games I usually win. Elena laughed bitterly. Not tonight. She turned toward the window, the city sprawling below. Down there. Her name was probably trending already. Poor Maid. Gold digger. Blackwell's scandal. She pressed a hand to the glass, whispering, My brother will see this. My mother. They'll see me humiliated. Dominic's voice softened, surprising even himself. They'll see you fight back. Her throat tightened. She wanted to believe him, but deep down, she knew society would never let her win so easily. Moments later, his phone buzzed. Again and again. Investors, board members, his family. He ignored the first calls. By the fifth, his hand shot out, gripping the phone so hard his knuckles whitened. He answered. "Dominic, what are you doing?" An older man's voice thundered. His father, head of the Blackwell legacy, dragging our name through the mud for a maid? "She's not," Dominic started, but the voice cut him off. "You fix this. Now. End whatever this is, or the board will." "Okay." The call ended. Elena turned, reading his expression. "They want you to get rid of me." He didn't answer, but his silence said enough. She swallowed, the sting sharper than she expected. Then maybe they're right. Dominic's head snapped up. "Don't say that." "Why not?" she whispered. "I'm already the joke of your world." Her eyes glistened, but she refused to cry. "Do you know what it feels like, Dominic? To have your worth decided in headlines? To be judged without being heard?" For once, he didn't have a quick retort. His silence felt heavier than any words. The hours dragged on. By dawn, news anchors replayed her defiant words on loop. "Not yet, but I will." Some mocked her. Some admired her. The world had an opinion. Everyone did except Dominic. He stood at the window, shoulders stiff, phone buzzing nonstop. Elena sat on the couch, arms wrapped around herself, both trapped in the storm. Finally, he spoke. "You said you wanted rules." Her head lifted. "Yes, then hear mine. If you stay, you play by my side. Publicly. No running, no hiding." Her stomach twisted. "That's not what I agreed to." "It is now." She rose, anger sparking. "You think you can rewrite every deal just because you're rich?" He stepped closer, eyes blazing. "Yes, that's exactly what I do." Her heart hammered, but she didn't back away. "Then rewrite this one, because I won't be your shield, or your toy. If I stay, it'll be on my terms." Dominic's breath hitched. Her defiance wasn't weakness. It was power, and it unsettled him more than any scandal. The room fell silent again. But this time, it wasn't cold. It was charged. Like the moment before a storm breaks, Dominic's hand lifted, as if to touch her cheek. But he stopped midway, curling his fist instead. "Careful, Elena Cruz," he whispered. "You're playing a dangerous game." She met his gaze without flinching. "So are you." The penthouse intercom buzzed again. This time the concierge's voice was urgent. "Mr. Blackwell, the board has called an emergency meeting. They're demanding your presence, and they want to see her too." Elena's blood ran cold. "Me?" Dominic's expression hardened. "Yes. They don't just want to end this. They want to put you on trial." The words sank like stones. The poor maid was about to face the millionaire's world, and this time there would be no escape. The limousine ride to Blackwell Holdings was silent. Not the calm kind, the kind that weighed heavy, pressing every second into her chest. Elena sat rigid, fingers clutching the hem of her thrift store dress. She hadn't changed since last night. The world had. Beside her, Dominic scrolled through emails, jaw tight. No trace of warmth, no hint of reassurance. Only the cold face of a man about to fight for an empire. And she? She was the pawn dragged onto his board. The headquarters loomed like a fortress. Glass walls, steel edges, power written into every line of its design. Inside, the boardroom glittered with polished wood and gold fixtures. A dozen men and women in sharp suits sat waiting, eyes like knives. At the head of the table, Arthur Blackwell, Dominic's father, gray hair, colder eyes. "Elena Cruz," he said flatly, "the maid who has reduced this company to tabloid fodder." Her throat tightened. She wanted to shrink, but Dominic's hand brushed hers under the table. "Not tender. Just a silent order. Stand your ground." The interrogation began. "Miss Cruz, how long have you known Mr. Blackwell? Did you solicit this arrangement? Are you aware of the damage your presence has caused shareholders?" Questions fired like bullets. She struggled to keep up. Her voice shook, but she answered. "I've known him less than 24 hours. No, I did not ask for anything. And the damage isn't my fault. I didn't invite the cameras." Snickers rippled around the table. One woman sneered. "A maid lecturing us on responsibility. How charming." Elena's cheeks burned, but she forced herself to breathe. If she collapsed now, they'd win. Dominic finally spoke, his voice slicing through the noise. Enough. If you have questions, ask me. She's not your scapegoat. Arthur's gaze hardened. You brought this circus upon us. You humiliated this family, this company, by parading a maid as if she belongs in our world. The words stung Elena like a whip, but Dominic didn't flinch. Maybe she belongs more than you think. Gasps. Even Elena's eyes widened. Arthur slammed the table. She's nothing. She scrubs floors. No. Elena's fists clenched under the table. The humiliation seared, but anger rose hotter. She lifted her chin. I may scrub floors, Mr. Blackwell, but I also studied the very laws your lawyers tripped over last night, and I saved your son's deal when no one else could. Silence. The board stared. Arthur blinked, caught off guard. Dominic's lips curved ever so slightly. Finally, she had their attention. A man in glasses cleared his throat. Is that true? Did she save the contract? Dominic leaned back. Yes. She spotted what 12 attorneys missed. Without her, we'd be bankrupt by morning. The room erupted in whispers. Doubt, shock, but also curiosity. Arthur's face darkened, pride wounded. So she read a contract. That doesn't make her one of us. Elena's voice shook, but she didn't stop. Number. It makes me someone you underestimated. The words hung heavy, every eye fixed on her now. The tension broke when Meredith Kensington glided in. Late. Perfectly timed. Apologies, she purred, sliding into a seat. Her eyes locked on Elena, smile dripping venom. Did I miss the maid's speech? The board chuckled. Arthur smirked. Dominic's jaw tightened. Elena forced herself not to shrink. Instead, she met Meredith's gaze head-on. You missed the part where the maid saved this empire. The room froze. For a heartbeat, no one breathed. Then murmurs rippled again, sharper this time. Some amused, some impressed. Meredith's smile faltered. Arthur pounded the gavel at the end of the table. This farce ends today. Dominic, you will dismiss her, publicly, and salvage what's left of our name. Dominic stood. His chair scraped against the marble. His eyes burned, not at Elena, but at his father. Number. Gasps exploded. Arthur's fists slammed the table. You defy me for a maid? Dominic's voice was steel. I defend what's mine. She stays. Elena's chest tightened. Those words, not protection, possession. The boardroom crackled with outrage. Investors shouting. Meredith whispering poison into Arthur's ear. And Elena, she realized she was no longer invisible. She was at the center of a war. One she never asked for. One she might not survive. The boardroom erupted. Half the members shouting at Dominic. The other half whispering to each other, calculating what this rebellion meant. Arthur Blackwell stood, his presence filling the room. You disgrace this family, this company, for a maid. Do you realize what you've done? Dominic's voice was calm, but unyielding. Yes. For once, I chose what I wanted. Not what you dictated. Gasps circled the room. This wasn't just defiance. It was war. Elena sat frozen, pulse hammering. She wasn't supposed to be here. She wasn't supposed to matter. And yet, she was the reason the room burned. Meredith leaned forward, her voice dripping venom. Dominic, darling, if you think a maid will save you, you're more foolish than I thought. Her gaze darted to Elena, sharp and mocking. And you, enjoy this little fantasy while it lasts. Because when he's finished with you, you'll be scrubbing toilets again. No. Laughter rippled from a few board members. Elena's stomach twisted, but then Dominic slammed his hand on the table. Enough. The room fell silent. His eyes locked on Meredith. Mock her again, and you'll be the one out of this company. Elena's breath caught. The defense wasn't gentle. It was brutal. Dominic didn't protect, he claimed. Arthur's glare sharpened. You've lost control. If you continue, you won't just lose this company, you'll lose everything. Dominic straightened. Then so be it. The words hung heavy, shocking even Elena. For the first time she saw it. He wasn't bluffing. He would risk it all. And part of her hated that she was the reason. The meeting adjourned in chaos. Reporters waited outside, but security rushed them through private exits. In the limousine, Elena finally spoke. Why did you say that? Dominic's eyes stayed on the city lights. Because it's true. You'll risk your empire, your family for me? She whispered. He turned, his gaze sharp. Number not for you. For myself. For the first time, I made a choice no one else controlled. Her chest ached. It wasn't love. It wasn't even kindness. It was his hunger for freedom. And somehow, she was tangled in it. Back at the penthouse, she paced near the window. The skyline glittered, mocking her. Her phone buzzed non-stop. Messages from coworkers, neighbors, even old classmates. Some cheered. Most mocked. She shut it off, throat tight. Dominic poured a drink, silent. Finally, she turned. You don't see it, do you? He raised a brow. See what? You're untouchable. You'll survive this. But me? I'll always be the maid who cost Blackwell his crown. Her voice broke. My brother will hear the whispers. My mother will read the headlines. I can't escape it. For once, Dominic didn't argue. He just studied her, expression unreadable. Finally, he said softly, then don't escape. Face it, like you did in that boardroom. She shook her head. I don't have your armor. His lips curved faintly. Maybe you don't need mine. The night stretched. The city never slept, and neither did they. She sat on the couch, exhausted, but too restless to close her eyes. Dominic stood by the window, phone buzzing every few minutes. Investors threatening, family condemning, the world demanding answers. But beneath it all, he felt something strange. Not just anger, not just defiance, something he couldn't name. And when he looked at Elena, he realized she was the reason. Just before dawn, his father's voice rang again. Not on the phone. At the door. Arthur Blackwell walked into the penthouse uninvited, fury in every line of his face. You've gone too far, Dominic. His eyes landed on Elena. Cold, disgusted. You. Pack your things and leave. Now. Elena's knees weakened. Every instinct screamed to obey. But then Dominic's hand found hers. Firm. Certain. She stays, he said again. This time in my home. Arthur's face turned red with rage. The storm had reached its peak. And Elena Cruz realized the fight wasn't just about money anymore. It was about her place in Dominic Blackwell's world. Arthur's glare could cut glass. He stood in the middle of the penthouse like a judge about to deliver a sentence. Dominic, you're out of your mind. You risk this family's empire, our legacy for a maid. Dominic didn't flinch. I risk nothing I can't rebuild. But if I give in to you now, I lose myself. Oh, Arthur's fist slammed the counter. You sound like your mother, always chasing feelings. And look where that got her. Elena froze. Her gaze darted to Dominic. His jaw tightened. His eyes darkened. Don't, Dominic said, voice low. Don't bring her into this. Arthur sneered. She was weak, and now you drag another weak woman into this house. The words sliced Elena like knives. But before she could speak, Dominic snapped. She's stronger than anyone at your table last night. She saved this company while you were busy protecting your pride. Arthur's face reddened. You think the board will tolerate this scandal? They're already moving against you. The air turned heavy. Elena's chest tightened. She was tearing Dominic's world apart without meaning to. I should go, she whispered. Arthur smirked, satisfied. Finally, some sense. But Dominic caught her wrist, firm. You walk out, you prove them right. Her eyes stung. I'm not like you, Dominic. I don't have armor. Every whisper cuts me. Every headline feels like truth. He leaned closer, his voice keener now. Then let me take the blows. Arthur scoffed. You're blinded, son, but I'll fix this. By the end of today, the board will vote you out. Dominic's grip on Elena's wrist tightened, his face hardening. Then I'll build something without you. Arthur turned sharply, his coat sweeping behind him. Don't test me, Dominic. You'll lose more than money. The door slammed. The echo lingered like thunder. Silence. Elena pulled her hand free, her voice breaking. He's right. You'll lose everything. And it'll be because of me. Dominic studied her, his eyes unreadable. Then, softly, number, because of me. For the first time I chose differently, and maybe that terrifies him. Her breath trembled. You talk like this is freedom, but for me, it's a cage. I can't go home. I can't work. Everyone knows my name now. Dominic's voice lowered. Then don't hide from it, own it. If they'll talk, give them something worth talking about. Her lips parted, shocked. You're asking me to play along. I'm asking you, he said firmly, to survive. Hours later, News outlets swarmed with footage of the boardroom. Clips of Elena defying Meredith replayed on loop. Some mocked her accent. Others praised her courage. At the same time, whispers of Dominic's downfall grew louder. Blackwell unfit to lead. Reckless CEO risks empire for Maid. Elena sat curled on the couch, scrolling, her stomach twisting. Every cruel comment felt like a dagger. Dominic watched her from the window. She didn't see his hand clench at his side, the rare flicker of guilt in his eyes. By evening, another visitor arrived. This time Meredith. Her heels clicked against the marble as if she owned the place. "Well, that was quite the show," she said smoothly, dropping her coat on a chair. "The board is circling like vultures, Dominic, and you, dear Elena, are the feast." Elena rose, shaky but defiant. "Say what you came to say." Meredith's smile sharpened. "Leave him. Quietly. If you care about him at all, you'll disappear before the board tears him apart. Or worse, before Arthur does." Elena's chest tightened. "Is that a threat?" Meredith tilted her head. "Just advice." Her eyes flicked to Dominic. "You've always been brilliant, Dominic, but blinded by pride. She's your biggest weakness, and everyone knows it." She leaned closer to Elena, her whisper slicing the air. "And one way or another, this ends with you gone." When she left, silence filled the penthouse again. Elena's heart pounded. Meredith's words echoed in her mind, louder than her own thoughts. Dominic finally spoke, voice low. "Don't listen to her." Elena turned on him, her eyes wet but fierce. "She's right. I am your weakness, and sooner or later, it'll destroy you." He stepped closer, his gaze burning. "Or maybe you're the only thing keeping me human." The words caught in her chest. Her lips trembled, but she said nothing. Because deep down, she didn't know which was true. The night after Meredith's visit was long. Elena barely slept. Her mind replayed the words again and again. "You're his weakness. This ends with you gone." She stared at the city lights until dawn, wondering if Meredith was right. By morning, the headlines confirmed her fear. Blackwell Empire in crisis. Board pushes for CEO's removal. Maid at the center of scandal. Her photo was everywhere. Not elegant, not glamorous. Just her, in a plain uniform, holding a tray like a prop in someone else's cruel play. Elena closed the laptop, her stomach sick. Dominic entered, still in his suit from the night before. He hadn't slept either. "They're calling for an emergency press conference," he said flatly, "and they'll use it to bury you." Elena swallowed. "So, this is the end." His eyes locked on hers. Not if we control the story first." She blinked. "Control the story? Dominic, I'm a maid. They'll never believe me." His jaw clenched. "They don't have to believe. They just have to see you." Her brows furrowed. "See me as what?" He stepped closer, voice low. "As someone untouchable. Someone who can stand next to me without bowing." Her chest tightened. "You want me to be your shield?" His gaze softened, almost for the first time. I want you to be my equal." Hours later, the press conference was set. The ballroom of the Grand Regency Hotel again. The same place this chaos began. Reporters packed the room. Flashbulbs already firing. Whispers hissed as Dominic entered with Elena at his side. "She actually came. Look at her dress. It's nothing compared to Meredith's last gala. She'll never survive this." Elena's palms were damp, her heart racing. She wore a simple navy dress Dominic's assistant had given her. Not glamorous, but dignified. Dominic stopped at the podium. The crowd roared with questions. He raised a hand, silencing them. "Last night, this company nearly collapsed," he said firmly. "And it was saved. Not by our lawyers, not by our board, but by Elena Cruz." Gasps. Reporters scribbled furiously. He continued. "You call her a maid. I call her the reason Blackwell Holdings still stands." Elena's breath caught, her name spoken like that before the entire world. Part pride, part fear. The crowd erupted again. Questions flew. "Elena, did you accept $1 million for one night? Are you in love with Dominic Blackwell? Do you plan to marry into his fortune?" Her throat tightened. Every instinct screamed to run. But Dominic's words echoed in her mind. "Don't bow." So she stepped forward. Her voice shook at first, but grew stronger with each word. "I am Elena Cruz. Yes, I clean floors. Yes, I come from nothing. But that doesn't mean I'm nothing." Flashes exploded. Murmurs filled the air. "I didn't ask for this spotlight," she continued. But if I have it, I'll use it, to show that dignity can't be bought. Not for $1 million. Not for any price. The ballroom froze. Some jaws dropped. Even hardened reporters paused their pens. At the back of the room, Arthur Blackwell stood with Meredith. Arthur's eyes burned with fury. Meredith's lips curved in a cruel smile. Arthur whispered, "She's ruining everything," Meredith replied smoothly. "Or giving us the perfect stage to destroy her." On stage, Dominic watched Elena with something unreadable in his eyes. Pride, admiration, and perhaps, for the first time, fear. Because the more she spoke, the less control he had. The maid wasn't just surviving. She was taking the spotlight. And Dominic Blackwell knew the war had only just begun. The ballroom buzzed long after Elena stepped away from the podium. Some clapped, some whispered, but no one ignored her. For the first time in her life, Elena Cruz wasn't invisible. Dominic leaned toward her, voice low. "You held them. You silenced them." Her chest rose, still trembling from adrenaline. "I didn't silence them. I only bought us time." Across the room, Arthur Blackwell watched with narrowed eyes. Beside him, Meredith's smile gleamed like polished steel. "She thinks she's a heroine," Meredith murmured. Arthur's jaw tightened. "She's a liability, and liabilities are cut." Meredith's eyes glinted. "Then let me handle it. Publicly. One cut deep enough to end her." Arthur gave a curt nod. "Do it." Later that night, headlines spread like wildfire. Who is Elena Cruz? The maid behind Blackwell's scandal. Her brother's hospital records leaked. A family of debts and lies. Elena scrolled through her phone, her stomach dropping. Photos of her brother in a hospital bed plastered across gossip blogs. Her mother's unpaid bills dragged through the mud. Tears blurred her vision. They know everything. Dominic stormed into the room, his own phone buzzing. "They went after your family, Meredith." Elena looked up, broken. "My brother, he didn't ask for this." His jaw hardened. "They'll regret it." But Elena shook her head. "This isn't just about me anymore. They'll keep hurting the people I love until I break." Her voice cracked. "And maybe I should." Dominic froze. "You're saying you'll leave?" Her lips trembled. "If I walk away, they stop. The story dies. You keep your empire. My family gets peace." His voice dropped, dangerous. "Number. That's exactly what they want." Silence stretched. Her heart twisted. His eyes burned. Finally she whispered, "Dominic, I don't know if I can survive this." For a moment, something flickered in him. Not the cold CEO. Not the calculating heir. Something softer. Something human. He reached for her hand. "You don't have to survive it alone." The next morning, the war escalated. Meredith appeared on national television, flawless in pearls and silk. With a sweet smile, she delivered the dagger. "Dominic is like a brother to me. But this? Paying $1 million for a maid? It's reckless. It's cruel. And she's using him. We all see it." Clips spread instantly. Comment sections exploded. Gold digger, opportunist, Blackwell's downfall. Elena sat frozen on the couch, every word a blade. Dominic shut off the television with a slam. "She thinks she can bury you," Elena whispered, voice trembling. "She already is." That night, the penthouse felt colder than ever. Elena sat by the window, staring at the city below. Every headline screamed her name. Every whisper felt like a noose tightening. Dominic stood behind her, silent. He'd fought wars in boardrooms. But this was different. "Elena," he said quietly, "you have two choices. Let them write your story, or stand up and write it yourself." Her eyes burned with tears. "And if I can't? Then I'll write it with you." But before she could answer, his phone buzzed again. This time not a board member, not an investor, his father. Arthur's voice was like thunder through the speaker. "You've lost the media. The investors are pulling out. Tomorrow, the board votes and you're finished." The call ended. Dominic's face was stone. Elena's pulse hammered. If the board removed him, everything would crumble. And in that moment, she realized his empire, his future, his survival might depend on her next move. The night before the vote, the penthouse was silent. Too silent. Dominic sat by the window, a glass untouched in his hand. Elena watched him, her heart twisting. This wasn't the arrogant CEO who mocked her days ago. This was a man about to lose everything. She whispered, "What happens if they vote against you?" His jaw clenched. Then I lose my position, my empire, everything I've built. Her chest ached. And because of me, his eyes snapped to hers, sharp. Number. Because of him, my father, and Meredith. You didn't cause this, you exposed it. But the guilt weighed heavy. She thought of her brother, her mother, their lives already tangled in the firestorm. Maybe walking away really was the only way to save them all. Yet another voice inside whispered louder. If you run, you'll always be the maid they said you were. Morning came too soon. Blackwell Holdings towered above the city, a battlefield of glass and steel. The boardroom was packed. Reporters outside, investors inside. And at the center, Dominic Blackwell. He entered with Elena at his side. Gasps echoed. Whispers hissed. She's still here? He's finished. Madness. Arthur stood at the head of the table, gavel in hand. This emergency meeting will decide the future of this company, he declared, and whether Dominic Blackwell remains fit to lead. The attacks began immediately. Dominic, your reckless stunt cost us millions in reputation. Investors are fleeing. Your name is a liability. Elena sat stiff beside him, every word cutting her deeper. Then Meredith rose gracefully. Her smile was sweet, her tone venom. Dominic is brilliant, we all know that. But brilliance without discipline is chaos. Look at the headlines. Look at her. Her eyes darted to Elena, sharp as knives. A maid in the boardroom, a scandal wrapped in desperation. She doesn't belong here. And Dominic's insistence proves he no longer belongs at the helm. The room murmured. Heads nodded. The tide was turning. Dominic slammed his hand on the table. You want discipline? She saved the contract that keeps this company alive. Arthur scoffed. Luck. A maid stumbling into something beyond her. Elena's fists clenched under the table. Her heart pounded. And then, she stood. The room froze. No maid had ever stood at that table. Her voice shook at first, but it carried. You keep calling me a maid, as if that makes me less. But last week, 12 attorneys failed to protect this company, and I, a maid, found the flaw that saved it. Gasps. Whispers. She lifted her chin. You call me a liability, but what's more dangerous? A woman who spoke the truth, or a board too arrogant to see it? Arthur's face reddened. You dare lecture us? Yes, Elena said, her voice steady now. Because I've scrubbed your floors. I've seen how quickly you discard people. And I know dignity isn't bought with money or titles. It's earned. The board fell silent. Even Meredith's smile faltered. Dominic's eyes burned, pride flashing for the first time. But Arthur recovered quickly. Enough theatrics. This isn't a courtroom. It's business. And the vote will speak louder than your little speech. He raised the gavel. All in favor of removing Dominic Blackwell as CEO? Hands lifted. 1, 2, 3. A wave of betrayal. Dominic's jaw clenched, but he didn't flinch. All against? Arthur demanded. Hands lifted again. Less this time. Too few. Arthur smirked, ready to strike the gavel. But then, I vote against, a voice said. Every head turned. It was one of the senior investors. He stood, adjusting his tie. Because she's right. I watched this maid dismantle a contract my own team couldn't. If she can see what we missed, maybe Dominic sees something we don't. Murmurs erupted. Another hand rose. And another. Arthur's smirk cracked. Finally, the votes were tallied. Split. Deadlock. Arthur's face twisted with rage. The chair breaks the tie, and the chair is me. He raised the gavel. But before it struck, Elena's voice rang out again. Then you'll prove everything I said true. That this isn't about leadership, it's about pride. Your pride. The room froze. All eyes swung back to Arthur. His hand trembled on the gavel. For the first time, doubt flickered in the Titan's eyes. Dominic leaned forward, his voice low but sharp. Go ahead, father. Strike it. Show them you'd rather destroy me than save your company. The air was electric. Every breath held. And Arthur hesitated. The meeting adjourned without a decision. Reporters swarmed outside, demanding answers. Dominic guided Elena through the chaos, his hand firm at her back. In the limousine, silence hung heavy. Finally, Dominic whispered, You changed the vote. You stood in front of them, and you changed it. Elena's eyes filled, her voice soft. I didn't do it for you. I did it because I couldn't let them bury me alive. His lips curved faintly. Whatever the reason, you just became unstoppable. But deep down, Elena knew the war wasn't won. Arthur wouldn't stop. Meredith wouldn't stop. And somewhere in the shadows, another battle was already being planned. The limousine ride back from the boardroom felt different. Not victory, not defeat, just fragile silence. Dominic sat rigid, staring at the skyline. Elena's hands twisted in her lap, her heart still pounding from the speech she'd given. Finally, she whispered, "You're still not safe. He won't stop until you're destroyed." Dominic's jaw clenched. "Neither will I." His tone was sharp. But beneath it, Elena heard something else. Fear. By evening, the headlines had already shifted. The maid who challenged the Blackwell board. Elena Cruz. Liability or secret weapon. Dominic Blackwell defies his father in deadlock showdown. Some painted her as brave, others as reckless. Every article pulled her further from the shadows. Elena shut the laptop, her throat tight. "I never asked for any of this." Dominic turned from the window, his gaze steady. "Number. But now you own it." While the city gossiped, Arthur and Meredith met privately. The Blackwell patriarch paced, fury radiating from every step. "She embarrassed me, in front of my own board." Meredith poured herself a glass of wine, unbothered. "And the press adores her for it. A maid standing up to the mighty Blackwells. It's a fairy tale." Arthur's glare snapped to her. "Then ruin the fairy tale." Meredith smirked. "Already working on it. Tomorrow morning, every outlet in this city will know the truth she's hiding." Arthur frowned. "What truth?" Meredith sipped her wine, savoring the moment. Her past. The debt collectors. The scholarship she lost. The fact she once worked nights at a seedy bar to pay her mother's medicine. One headline, and she's not a fairy tale. She's a scandal. Arthur's lips curled. Good. Destroy her reputation. Break her before she breaks him. Back at the penthouse, Elena sat by the window, knees pulled to her chest. Her phone buzzed with messages she didn't dare open. Her mother, her brother, friends from a life she barely remembered. All dragged into the spotlight. She whispered to herself, "They'll dig until there's nothing left." Dominic approached quietly, a rare softness in his tone. "Elena, look at me." She turned, eyes wet. "You're stronger than this. I saw it in that boardroom. You shook them." Her lips trembled. "And what if they find everything? The nights I don't talk about? The jobs I prayed no one would ever know?" He stepped closer. "Then they'll see you survived what they couldn't." Her chest ached. For a moment, she almost believed him. But the storm arrived faster than either expected. By morning, the headlines screamed. The dark past of Elena Cruz, from Maid to Millionaire scandal. Blackwell's woman, worked in bars, drowned in debt. Is this the real Elena? Photos splashed across tabloids, grainy shots of a younger Elena serving drinks at a dimly lit bar. Exhaustion etched into her face. Elena's blood ran cold. Her past, ripped open for the world to devour. She slammed the laptop shut, her hands trembling. "I can't do this. I can't." Dominic grabbed her shoulders, steadying her. "Yes, you can. They're trying to bury you alive. Don't hand them the shovel." Her voice cracked. "You don't understand. This isn't just shame, it's survival. I did what I had to do to keep my family alive." His gaze didn't waver. "Then say it. Own it. Show them you're not ashamed." Tears streaked her cheeks. "You think they'll forgive me? They won't. To them, I'll always be just the maid who wasn't good enough." Dominic's voice sharpened. To them, you'll be the maid who rose anyway." For a moment, silence hung between them. Then the intercom buzzed. "Mr. Blackwell," the concierge's voice crackled. "Reporters are outside, dozens of them. They're demanding Elena." Her chest tightened. She looked at Dominic, terror in her eyes. "I can't face them." He leaned closer, his voice low but fierce. "Yes, you can, and you will. Because if you hide now, you'll never stand again." Elena's heart pounded. Her body shook. But deep inside, a spark flickered. She had faced Dominic. She had faced the board. Maybe she could face the world too. Her lips parted. "Then come with me." Dominic's eyes burned. Always. Together, they turned toward the doors. The storm waited outside. And Elena Cruz, maid, survivor, secret fighter, was about to step into it. The elevator ride down felt endless. Elena's hands trembled, clutching the hem of her dress. Her heart pounded so loud she swore the walls could hear it. Beside her, Dominic stood calm. Too calm. like a man walking into battle with no fear of bullets. But she wasn't him. She was the one in the headlines. She was the one about to be torn apart. The lobby doors slid open. Chows. Reporters swarmed like vultures. Flashes blinded her. Microphones shoved forward. Elena? Did you lie about your past? Were you working bars while dating Dominic? Are you after his money? The questions stabbed one after another. Her knees weakened. For a moment she almost turned back. But Dominic's hand pressed against her back, steady. Look at them, he whispered. They don't get to own your story. You do. She inhaled sharply, then stepped forward. The noise rose, but she raised her voice higher. Yes, I worked in bars. Yes, I drowned in debt, and yes, I scrubbed floors to keep my family alive. The crowd went silent for a beat. The confession, raw and unpolished, cut deeper than any denial. Her voice grew stronger. I am Elena Cruz. I didn't have the luxury of being born rich. Every dollar I earned came from sweat and sacrifice. I never lied about being poor because I never had the chance to be anything else. Flashes exploded. Gasps echoed. But you call it shame, she continued, her chin lifting. I call it survival. The crowd buzzed. Some skeptical, some stunned, but no one could ignore her anymore. At the back, Meredith watched with narrowed eyes. Arthur stood stiff, his fury barely contained. Meredith whispered, "She's turning it into a victory." Arthur hissed back, "Then we'll turn it into her downfall." Elena's chest heaved, but she kept going. Dominic didn't buy me. He didn't rescue me. I made choices to protect my family, and I'll never apologize for that. The press roared again. Do you love him? Is this marriage material? Are you playing the long con? Her lips parted. The question pierced sharper than the rest. Love. Her eyes flicked to Dominic. His gaze was locked on her, unreadable, waiting. She swallowed hard. Her voice shook, but she answered, I don't know what the future holds. But I know this, I'm not here to be a secret or a scandal. I'm here because I refuse to hide anymore. The words fell heavy, but true, and for the first time, she saw it. The press wasn't mocking. They were listening. Dominic stepped forward then, taking the podium. She is Elena Cruz, and as of today, she is not my weakness. She is my partner. Gasps. Shouts. The ballroom of cameras erupted like thunder. Meredith's face went pale. Arthur's fists clenched tight. Dominic finished, his voice cutting through the chaos. If you want to end me, you'll have to end her too. Because we stand together. The press conference exploded into chaos. Some reporters shouted in admiration. Others in outrage. The world had its story, and it was bigger than scandal. Elena's chest burned. Her heart pounded. For once, not from shame, but from something terrifying and fragile. Hope. Later that night, back in the penthouse, silence settled again. Elena sat on the couch, exhausted. Dominic poured 2 glasses of water, not champagne. You changed everything today, he said quietly. She looked at him, her voice barely a whisper. Or I made it worse. His gaze locked on hers. Number. You showed them who you are, and they won't forget it. Her lips trembled. But will you? He didn't answer. Not with words. Only with the silence of a man torn between pride, power, and something he didn't dare admit. But across the city, Arthur and Meredith raised their glasses. The headlines were shifting in Elena's favor. And that meant one thing. It was time to strike harder. The storm broke the next morning. Arthur Blackwell and Meredith Kensington stood before cameras, their faces calm, their voices sharp. This company has no place for weakness, Arthur declared. And Dominic has chosen weakness over duty. Meredith leaned forward, her smile sweet but lethal. Elena Cruz is not a partner. She is a liability. And today, we prove it. They held up documents, grainy photos, debt records, fragments of Elena's past, twisted into a weapon. The crowd gasped. The trap was set. But before the narrative could take hold, another figure stepped onto the stage. Elena Cruz. Her dress was simple, her voice steady, and her eyes burning with a strength no scandal could crush. You've shown them pieces of my past, she said, holding up the papers. Debt, poverty, struggle. Yes, that's all true. But you forgot the part where I survived it. The audience fell silent. I scrubbed your floors. I served your drinks. I held my family together with pennies. And still, I stand here. Not hidden, not ashamed. Flashes exploded. Reporters leaned in, captivated. Maybe you think that makes me weak, but I know the truth. My scars make me stronger than any of you who were handed crowns at birth. At the back of the room, Dominic stepped forward, his voice cutting through. She saved my company when no one else could. She stood when every headline tried to break her. And she reminded me of something. I forgot power means nothing without integrity. His gaze locked on Arthur. I will not betray her. Not for you, not for this empire, not for anyone. The room erupted. Shouts, applause. The tide had shifted. Arthur's face hardened, fury trembling in his hands. Meredith's smile cracked, venom evaporating. And Elena, she felt the weight lift from her chest. For once, she wasn't running. She wasn't hiding. She was free. Hours later, the chaos faded. In the quiet of the penthouse, Elena stood by the window, the city lights glittering like stars she never thought she'd touch. Dominic joined her, silent for a moment. Then softly, almost against his nature, "You changed me, Elena." Her breath caught. "I didn't mean to." "Maybe not," he said. "But you did." He reached for her hand. Not as possession, not as control, but as choice. And for the first time, she didn't pull away. The poor maid and the millionaire stood side by side. Not scandal, not contract, but something real. Elena whispered, "I'm still me, poor, flawed, fighting." Dominic's lips curved faintly. "And that's why you're the strongest person I've ever known." Her eyes stung with tears. Not of shame, but of something she hadn't felt in years. Hope. Outside, the headlines kept spinning. But for once, they didn't matter. Because the story wasn't about a scandal anymore. It was about survival. About dignity. About a maid who proved her worth in a world built to break her. And as the night closed in, Elena Cruz finally believed it. She wasn't invisible anymore.